goes by Daniel on the thing. I call him Dan. It's really tough for me to remember this, but welcome back. We haven't been, what is it, 2 weeks?
Yeah.
I think it's 2 weeks
2 weeks
because we were on an adventure. We were on an adventure.
Many cities.
Many cities. What was it? What did we say? 9? Was it 9 cities? Or was it 7
Something
cities?
like that. Yeah. I lost count.
It was a lot of cities, but we had a really, really lovely time. And so we are back. And we're going to see. We might be joined. We'll find out. There might be somebody else that joins us. I haven't heard back. But tonight, I thought that we would use the recovery circle that we just walked out of as a little bit of inspiration. Specifically, we pulled that strength card tonight. So I thought we would talk about that card. And I kind of opened the conversation and we talked about the fact that in the Thoth deck, that card was actually lust. So I'm curious. We're just going to start off and say, like, Dan, when you think of this strength card, and you shared it with us before, but I'd love to hear it here. Like, what does that really represent when it comes to recovery for you?
The thing I thought of tonight, I gotta refer back because I wrote it down and my brain doesn't operate. So. But in regards to recovery, it was the courage to live and love fully and boldly without fear or numbing. And the persistent endurance it takes to live sober and kind of reclaiming that. It's lost in the Thoth deck, but I also, as much as I like to call it the lust card, it's for me it's like passion.
Yeah.
Kind of the passion card and the lust for life. And kind of reclaiming that passion and lust for life when you're in recovery and doing all those things that you always wanted to do, but were robbed of from addiction.
What comes to mind is I remember, and I think I've shared this with you before, seeing Brene Brown's Netflix special, Atlas of the Heart, where she goes through and explores like different human emotion. And she gets to the emotion of wonderment and awe, right? And I have thought about this so many times in recovery. I don't think before I stepped into recovery, I ever experienced wonderment and awe in my life. I just don't. And so
Not since I was a kid, anyway.
Probably the same. Probably that one picture of me with the wind blowing as a kid, like my favorite picture ever. Yeah, and so when I think of this strength card, it's the strength to stay aligned with that, right? It's the passion to not waver from this personal mission that I set forth on when I stepped into recovery, right? To not forget why I'm here.
Yeah. I would have a little of that passion when I was drinking. I would say be off and I would sit down with something I was passionate about, whether it was cooking or sitting down with a new recipe book, and I would have passion with the drink for about 20 minutes. And then it would just suck it away because I would fall into this state of malaise and sloppiness after that, and never actually do anything with it or really appreciate it. It was just really short-lived.
So I got a couple of questions up here, and this next one's a little bit of a doozy, at least, for me when I read it, I kind of felt it. But can you think of a time, right? Because we've both relapsed, right? And we both have some of our own like current struggles that we're dealing with when it comes to like our relationship with food. When is a time that you can think of that you overcame or faced like this challenge, whether it was a relapse or a trigger or whatever it is, with like compassion for yourself rather than kind of white knuckle gripping it or trying to let just sheer willpower.
I don't know that I did with relapse. I don't think gave myself that grace with that. It was more of like um, sunk me deeper into it.
Mm.
And there was one that I relapsed that I particularly remember. I went hard for 7 years after that because it just buried me. Like I didn't give myself the, like I said, the grace to make that mistake. I was overconfident and just felt like a failure. Um, I don't think I did. I was really hard on myself, and it got worse with each failure.
Mm. If there's anything that I could wish for anyone that stepped into a life of recovery, and I know, and for me, it does not matter if you're recovering from alcohol, drugs, food, you know, sex, like sex addiction, codependency, or even just trauma.
Scrolling.
Like it doesn't matter like what you're trying to recover or let go of. To me, I would wish or pray that every individual could learn how to give themselves grace, and to be compassionate and to choose to see and respond to their own self with love and kindness versus judgment and criticism. Yeah. And I think that strength card, when we were on Circle, one of the individuals was talking about one of the decks. It's the lion with the rose in their mouth, and how they believe that it's this strength with compassion that card represents. And, I don't, same thing we were talking last night about the Emperor card
Mhm.
and, how that Emperor can be, in the shadow, can be controlling and cruel. Um, yeah, that's a tough one. For me, I don't have a lot of, I have two drastic relapses in the course of a year. And after that last one, there was a lot of self-flagellation. There was the whipping that went on. And I don't know that I would have, same thing like in your shoes, if I couldn't have let go of that, there might have been a worse one after, you know, because it's tough. It's tough to like face a craving or a trigger or a relapse and to not see it as a sign of weakness.
Yeah, I really felt like I was in prison. Like I was like, oh my God, I really cannot let this go. Like I felt so
Mm.
hopeless. Like tomorrow I might feel great, but the next day I might be right back. And that was a very, very crushing hopelessness that it brought on. And that's where the community comes in too. You know, I wasn't doing AA or a circle or anything like that. It was just I was trying to do it by myself, and I didn't have anybody to tell me that, to guide me towards that grace. It was just all
Mm.
self punishment.
I am curious. Do you still find there are instances like that, like where you end up in that same space, where you're kind of hard to manage, right? Or you know, have you made peace with that?
No, I still do it. I I do it with food
Mm.
a lot. I have a sugar addiction, and it's very bothersome, but it doesn't have the teeth that alcohol has. It's like it's I don't know, I kind of look at it as it's not as serious. It is, but um I don't have the hopelessness from it. It's not like this, but it bothers me. I do still do that. I'll have something in the evening. I'll be like, damn, why did I look at me? Here I go again. So yes, to answer your question, yes, I do still do that. Then don't even enjoy it. Like it's not even an enjoyment. It's like feeding this craving.
Yeah, like the demon,
Hmm.
feeding that guy. I don't I've fallen into a handful of times, but for me uh it's not substance as much as it is these like chaotic mental storms where, I'll become obsessed. It's that control freak.
Yeah.
I'll become obsessed with this aspect of trying to control something, and I will spend hours upon hours, day after day. And, once upon a time, it could rob me for months. Thankfully, nowadays, if for me to go more than a week and a half or two, into these like kind of spiraled, control. For those that have never, heard the podcast before, I consider myself a recovering alcoholic, workaholic, perfectionist, and control freak. Like there are these things, and control is, I believe, a common one that a lot of addicts have. But yeah, I mean, I will get into these like mental patterns of trying to control, and that's where, that kind of like meanness and cruelty to myself comes in. And like same thing, like I know better. Like I can't control most of fucking anything in this world. I can control maybe what I'm gonna do next. Not even that all the time. How many times do you have a cat walk out underneath your feet?
Hmm.
um but I will say, for me, and I think there's a lot of people in recovery, the very first thing is being aware of it, being aware, being conscious, and, recognizing that it's not something you want in your life. Uh, because when you do that, you can work on finding another way, right? And, we talked a bit, during the circle tonight about, um, that strength card and that lust card. And my belief is that the other way is you have to want something else greater. You have to have a deeper desire for something else. So I'm curious, right? How have you, what's your relationship with desire, I guess? What's your relationship with desire? And, do you feel that it's something that is sacred and spiritual, or are you in the camp of it can be dangerous and, you know, too much of a temptation?
Which desire are we talking
Just
about?
desire in general.
Desire in general?
Hmm.
Depends on the desire, I guess.
Hmm.
But um I I guess I desire a lot of things, and I often will fantasize about them, whether it be creative uh, projects or even just the painting and like um, Yeah, I guess I'm positive about desire. But
The thought that pops up into my head is, desire is different than want, right? We may want to have something sweet. I may want to control something, but I don't have a desire for any of those things, right? Because when I think of desire, I think of something getting me hot and bothered and,
yeah,
needing a fan and being so, excited about something that, I can hardly keep myself, you know, um,
yeah, these are more in terms of, I kind of see where you're going now. I lost my train of thought, but in terms of like, for my example, the sugar and having something sweet at night or having some ice cream, it's more of feeding a craving, and I see it very much as that drinking demon kind of remanifested with a different substance sometimes.
mm,
And even when I eat it and afterward, especially, I don't even, like I said, enjoy it. It's more of a feeding a craving. It's not really desire.
mm,
It's really an addictive thing.
mm. What do you do? Like, I'm curious. I mean, I don't mean to call you out on, on this, but like, when we think about the addiction to alcohol, and I think we've had this conversation, like, you can just not drink. But, we live in a world where even if we wanted to avoid sugar, sugar's in just about anything, right? And so, like, what do you do when that, like, magnetic craving, I'm just starts to show itself up?
It's a balance too of I want to enjoy these things sometimes. I don't want to not have ice cream. That's crazy talk. It's so delicious, and I just don't want to be a slave to it, and I want to do it in moderation. Um, I want to enjoy these things too, but it's a little like alcohol in that, like, I know that I could never have a drink of alcohol. It would destroy my life if I did. But with the ice cream, I want to be able to just have it, and I kind of set some rules for myself sometimes, but quickly fall off the wagon, as they say sometimes, and spiral a bit with it. Um, I fall down this have one, and it's just like alcohol. Actually, it's just not quite as destructive. Um,
It doesn't have the tendencies to destroy a whole family like alcohol.
yeah, it doesn't, like, I don't feel like quite the slave I do as I do with alcohol. Um, it's just there's some shaming involved, and which is not good. But I also want to enjoy those things, and but it too I can go off on a spiral very easily with it and go for days, like um overindulging in those things. When we were on vacation, I did that. I had lots of treats on that trip. But now I've recentered now, and um back on the wagon, as they say.
That's, I think, some of the hard, parts. And, I know we've talked a lot about recovery, but I've had probably more conversations with my former therapist about this than I have anybody else about when we have food addictions, whether it's to sugar or, you know, even just disordered eating, it's hard because food is
It's
something that,
necessary.
yeah, it's necessary. And, the sweets and the sugar might not be necessary, but, you know, um, I think we have had this, a bit of this conversation. Like when you're living a life and you've already let go of your other vices, it's kind of hard sometimes to think that you're going to have to, required to walk away from everything. And, because I enjoy, I don't, I enjoy sweets. I enjoy not sweets. I enjoy something that's incredibly savory and delicious just as much as I do a sweet. Um, because food is just yummy. But that's a hard one. And I will, I said this as we wrapped up circle, and that strength card is not just sheer willpower. It is also compassion and learning to be in a place of loving kindness and forgiveness of ourselves, even if that want or desire is there.
And
Um,
maybe a little bit of learning how to enjoy it without
mm.
going off the rails.
I will tell you it is possible, and there is, food science even behind that can help you do that. Um, but it does, it requires a conscious admitting that you want to change it and being willing to look at doing things a different way. Um, you know, it's interesting. This next question is kind of along the lines that, like, of the food, how has your physical, right? Because we often think of strength relating to the physical nature, right? I don't think most people think of emotional strength when they hear the word strength. Um, how has that changed? Like, how has your body changed, as it relates to like the strength in the recovery journey?
I am much stronger than I was. That overcoming the alcohol gave me a lot of strength. I can stop doing things when I need to, even if I might slip up sometimes with some. We keep coming back to the desserts, but it's a skill too now. Um, from going through that horrible experience and figuring that out, I I have a skill with that. Um, being able to stop doing things.
The second part of this too is, in what ways does that affect, like your the way that your body has changed, or your relationship with that strength in your body? How does that relate to your experience with your confidence, right? Like, I don't I don't know about I mean, I think I know about you, but I don't know about everybody listening, but I think there's a lot of addicts out there that would state when they were in active addiction,
Zero confidence.
there, yeah, none,
Yeah,
right? Unless maybe you had that 1.5 drinks in, then you were like the most confident MFer in the whole world.
yeah, but until you until I you see that you you can't. I lost my train of thought. When you see that you're powerless to it, I think you can start gaining some confidence. But
Mm.
when I keep falling back into relapse and seeing, like I said, like a prisoner, feeling like a prisoner and a slave to this thing, it just sucks all of your confidence away, or at least it did for me.
For me, I had confidence around like my job and my career, so I overcompensated with that in a lot of ways. put a lot of eggs in that basket, like thinking like that was what success and happiness and all that kind of accomplishment looked like. And to me, it was a huge mask, just putting. I mean, I was on average, and there are some people that would hear this and just be like, whatever, but on average, 55, 60 hours a week. And my first marriage, my ex-husband abusive, but like I wasn't present in the marriage because I was working so much, right? I don't know, like probably not, but I just wasn't. I wasn't present in the marriage, even in the following relationship until I left that job, like allowed it to crumble. I I was masking behind all of that. And so, now on the other side of recovery, of both recovering from that like workaholism as well as the alcoholism and the perfectionism and all of that stuff, I feel I feel more confident. I feel strong and resilient emotionally, right? I don't feel like my whole self is going to fracture if something happens. Don't get me wrong, I'm still emotional and can still cry, but I feel a lot more resilient, and I don't necessarily feel physical strength in my body, but I feel like my physical body is capable of a lot more, being more present, more grounded, and more like here than it ever was. But yeah, I mean, confidence, any bit of confidence that I had when I was still in active addiction was a fucking mask that I learned how to put on.
Yeah, I think that addiction in general, we always talk about the drinking demon, and that demon is an eater of confidence.
Mm,
Like that inner dialogue you hear, this, um, it's just gross and just um, will destroy that confidence. I heard something. I was chatting with one of the others in the group about something I heard today. Somebody say about that inner dialogue we have and how we talk to ourselves. And she said, would you ever like talk to someone, anyone, the way that your own inner dialogue, the way you talk to yourself about things? Would you ever even think to do that?
God, no. No, no, no. We are often the most cruel to ourselves, right? The most cruel to ourselves. Um, I some of these questions, it's just we've touched on them. Like it's interesting as we're continuing to explore the questions that I wrote, we've already touched on, but um, how, how do you know? Yeah, I'm curious. Maybe you have something, because I know I've got signs. How do you know that you need to like surrender, right? Like when we're in recovery, and we've been in, down this healing path, there are times where, you know, we may find ourselves resorting back to previous behaviors, old patterns and things of that nature, not surrendering to like the new truths that we've learned, or the new tools or whatever it may be. But how do you know? Do you have anything that tells you?
I when I stopped drinking, I didn't really surrender, to be honest. I had a horrible experience and it was a survival, but I didn't. I knew for many, many, many years that I had a problem and recognized it, but like leaned into it in a really dark way. And I don't know that I ever did surrender myself. I didn't go to meetings. I didn't do 12 step or anything like that. But now because I am going to meetings now, I'm going to circle and I see it differently. And I see that surrender and checking in with myself and recognizing things more now than I ever used to. See myself going down um, a path that I shouldn't be. I'm much more in tune to it than I was.
I have two telltale signs. And the one I kind of talked about, and that's the that like mental churning. I'll have caught myself just turning over something for, days at a time. And that's usually an indication that I'm not surrendering, I'm not listening to spirit, I'm not, allowing my guides to truly guide me. And the second one is it's kind of like the same coin, but there's two sides of it. It's um, things are either hard, right? They're either hard, they're difficult to do, um, or they are uh, I'm trying too hard, right? It's like the same coin, but there's like two
Mhm.
sides. Like it's hard, or I'm trying too hard to kind of like round peg in a square hole or square peg in a round hole. Those are two signs to me that I'm not surrendering. Uh, because my belief is, the first one is just that perfectionism and that controlling nature. But the second one is, I believe, you know, life is meant to be easy, not hard.
Yeah, we definitely make it more complicated
Oh
than it needs to
my, do
be.
we make it
That's,
a lot more
I think
complicated.
that's the secret to life is like, like letting go of all those dialogues we have. And yeah, it's crazy what our minds put us through over some nonsense. A lot of it's nonsense.
Um, you had said in circle that the strength card or that lust card means lust for life. Like, what does it really mean to have a lust for life?
Lust for life is when I stopped drinking, I took up painting, and that amplified my lust for life because I was painting outside and like everything I looked at, I was thinking of how to paint it, and it gives you such an appreciation. But when I say lust for life, I mean like thankful for the air in my lungs and like the wonderment going outside and walking through the woods and looking at how things grow and appreciating all of it on a really high level. That's kind of what I mean.
Hmm.
Uh, and I don't always feel like that. Like you said, you have to keep reminding yourself. And I think gratitude is like the biggest, the biggest way to do that,
Mm-hmm.
even though it's not always easy. But that's what I mean is like going outside and like looking at a sunset and just being like, whoa, why am I worrying about all this bullshit? Like this is this is life, like beauty. And yeah, that's what I mean.
It's interesting, there's this song Lust for Life, and in my head I'm thinking, I think that a lot of people, when they would hear that term, they would think of the adrenaline,
Yeah.
right? And it would be more reminiscent of the addict behavior, right? The you know fit the vodka,
Live wild tonight.
yeah,
Yeah.
right, like
Yeah.
the 8 ball, the whatever it is. And you know adrenaline, um it always has a crash. There's always a crash at the other side of it, right? Like a huge gigantic spike of uh adrenaline is going to come with a big crash. It's going to have consequences, right? In whatever way, shape, or form. So for me, like this lust for life is this, it looks more, it's not the wild and the crazy parties. It's this, beautiful oasis with, fruit trees and vegetable gardens and crystal clear water and the song of birds and, you know, uh, just this true appreciation for every single breath and step and note and, every inch of, your skin and your muscles and the stretching. It's this truly experiencing what it feels like to be alive.
Yeah, and like seeing life for the miracle it is. And
Mm.
do you ever feel that so strongly you just get goosebumps all over your body?
I felt it so strongly I've cried before.
Yeah, me
Yeah.
too. It's looking at a sunset or like that's the place to strive to be in, is that feeling that way and that appreciation.
I'm going to bring it back to that strength card today. You know, the reason why that card is so important when it comes to recovery is because not every day is going to feel like that.
Oh yeah,
We
most
can
won't. I mean,
we can make more of those moments. We can move towards more. We can extend that time, right? But we have to have the strength to persevere. We have to have the strength to be patient and kind and loving to ourselves, to those individuals that are around us that might still be struggling. Ugh.
yeah, I think that service to others is a big part of that too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I would agree, being kind and caring to uh, those that are around us.
Random acts of kindness.
Mhm. Mm, that strength card. Oh, well, are you good, Dan? I think
Yeah,
we've had a good
I think
conversation
so.
here.
Yeah,
Uh, I will say this for anybody that's listening to this, and like, subscribe, blah 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 blah, all that lovely stuff. But more importantly, you know, I don't know when you're gonna hear this, but remember, if it's a tough day, I promise you it'll get better. And if for some odd reason you're like, fuck that, no, it won't, then I'd encourage you to change your perspective because you have more strength in you than you're giving yourself credit for. All right, all my dear friends. That's it. We will be back again, hopefully next week, same bad time, same bad channel. And until then, much love from Dan and I to all of you.
hi everybody. Thanks for listening.